Hey. Gotta wait a second to see which build you're doing. Again, I recommend the 4 racks. I don't think that the CC first... I think it's better than what you had been doing in the past, but I don't think it's very good. So it'll get you 50% or whatever, but the 4 racks will get you much better than 50%. This is, again, you're doing the CC first. So the big problem with the CC first, right, is basically the strength of infantry, of Marines, is when you finish 2-2 with stim and combat shields until he gets hive. That's your only window to win during, right? And if you go CC first and he sees it, he doesn't need to make any army units to defend his expansion, right? Which means that he's going to tend to get 72 workers by 10 minutes, and he's going to tend to be able to have a huge army ready to defend until he has hive. So you're not slowing him down, is what I'm saying. Basically, Zergs will only get their hive once they have 6 gas geysers running and they feel safe. Those 2 things have to happen before he can get hive, right? Because hive costs a ton of money and a ton of time, especially on top of getting an ultra cavern, on top of getting, you know, the ultra upgrades, on top of building the ultras. That's a ton of money and time being sunk into something that doesn't help until the actual first ultra pops out. So Zergs will never do that if they're feeling really vulnerable, like they're about to die. And also it just costs a ton of gas. So until they have a 3rd base, they also can't really go for a hive. So basically, when you go CC first, you're letting him get 6 gas almost immediately, and you're letting him feel safe from the very first second of the game until forever, right? So he never really feels threatened, which just pushes the hive timing up so much that it's not a great thing to do. And it is better than 1 rack's fast expand because it gives you exactly the same army size while giving you more workers and better worker saturation balance or whatever. But it's worse by far than anything that's gonna pressure the Zerg early, like the 4 racks. So we're gonna see at 10 minutes, we're looking for 52 workers from you, and we're looking for 72 from him. It looks like he's got 70 workers and you've got 52. So this is exactly where the best case for him and best case for you. And like I said, best case for him beats best case for you. What you want is for you to be at 52 and him to be crap. You want him to have not noticed that you went CC first. And it's really hard to, you know, you don't have control over whether or not he's crap. So this is why a lot of times when Terrans go for these early CCs, they go for Banshee Hellion, is because if you kill enough drones, he needs to replace enough drones, and then you're delaying him. And it also makes you safe against Rojal-ins and other kinds of crap. I like your wall-in, but if you look, if he knocks down this depot or this depot, he's in. So this is still a 5 baneling wall-in. Really, the key, like I said earlier, the key to a good wall-in is that it should take 10 to 11 banelings to get through. And you had a good wall-in with the 2 Raxes, and then you lifted them and made depots. And if you just made, I think, 2 more depots, then this would have been a good wall-in. Anyway, it doesn't matter. By 13 minutes into the game, you're not really relying on your wall-in anymore. So you can see, because you didn't take your 3rd, and he didn't have an army. You never want this to be the case. If he didn't make an army at all, your 3rd should be up and running at 12 minutes. And I know that you can't tell whether or not he took a 3rd, which is why you want to put your 3rd down really early and not put very many workers on it. Go all the way to 30 workers at your main, 30 workers at your natural, and no workers at your 3rd, and then transfer workers over there 3 at a time while they're being built from your 3 command centers, so that if he does force you to retreat your 3rd, you don't lose very much, and you're still fully mining back home. And then you'll have a much better chance of competing with a guy who goes for this massive income. So again, it's just spending wise, there's no way for you to compete with the amount of income that a Zerg can get if you leave him completely alone. So you end up fighting against a guy with a much bigger army than you. You've got a bunch of red flame hellions. I am not a fan of red flame hellions. I like blue flame hellions better. I suspect that you're on 611. Yeah, reactor 6. Ooh, actually this is only 5. So this is really bad. You don't have enough production to actually spend your money. It's impossible for you to do well. And you never want to be fighting before you finish your production infrastructure either, because it's so hard to look away from a fight, make some more racks, look back at the fight, that kind of stuff. So yeah, this game just really feels bad to me. Dun, 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 dun. So you killed a ton of workers, but you still have plenty of workers that could be mining down there, and you just need to replace them immediately. So you got plenty of workers, and they're not mining down here, so you end up with a worker efficiency pretty low. You could theoretically win right now. You have the ups. You have the compositionally. You're in great shape because he's massing mutas against Marines with upgrades. If you were rallying your reinforcements to the front, and if you had enough racks, and if you were making enough Marines, I think you actually would have won at this point, right? Because you got 3,000 bucks, could have been an additional 60 Marines, which would easily have dealt with these mutas. And so this just comes down to you not making enough racks. It's funny because one of the first things you know, the first round of replays, I was like, why are you getting 9 racks at 10 minutes? That's ridiculous. There's way too many racks. And now you've switched into 5 racks at 18 minutes, which is the opposite extreme, you know? What you might want to do, this is what Nick does. It's not the most efficient way to do things, but it is. It makes up for any sort of like if you're not good at remembering when to make racks and making racks at the right time. First of all, 3 tech labs with Marauders, so bad, so bad. You basically only want Marines. You make 1 racks Marauder or 2 racks Marauder, but never 3. Especially when you've only got 2 reactor core racks. Basically, you're all about Marines, man. All about Marines. Upgraded Marauders are terrible compared to Marines. Marauders are great at soaking up Baneling hits, and they're very important late game when Ultras come out, but by that point, you've basically lost if you haven't really won the game yet. So you want to be gearing up to have an army that is really good against Tier 2 Zerg, which is basically Mutiling Baneling or Roach Hydra. And Marines are good against both of those, and Marauders are not good against either of them. So don't make so many Marauders. Anyway, what I was saying is what Nick does, go for 10 racks right away with 2 tech labs and no reactor cores. So basically the goal of the 711 is 1 Marauder and 12 Marines, right? That's what you want. You want 1 Marauder, 12 Marines, 1 Marauder, 12 Marines. I usually end up with 13 or 14 Marines, but the point is at least 12 Marines every cycle. So if you go for 10 racks with 2 reactor cores, you're making 8 Marines and 2 Marauders. Not quite enough. So actually it's got to be more like, I don't know, 10 racks with 2 cores and 2 tech labs, I guess. And that gets you 10 Marines, and you get the point, basically. If you want 12 Marines, get 12 Marines while having a bunch of naked racks. And that way, later on, if you find that you failed to spend your money, you can just throw down reactor cores right away without having to look, because you can do it from your hotkey. You're looking at your army, you hit 1, hit CCCCC, and start throwing down reactor cores. You don't have to look away. And that's important. And the second reason is, if suddenly he gets Ultras out, you can throw down a bunch of tech labs and, you know, start messing Marauders. So, more racks is the point. This is still way too Marauder heavy, basically. I think you kind of almost won this game, really. The only reason you didn't win was the Marauders. Which is impressive, because he had enough money to kick your butt, but he just didn't spend it. He's got 7k in the bank or something. 5, 6, 7, yeah, 7k in the bank. So that was close, man. That was close. Again, undersaturated natural. Again, it's 20 minutes in and you never even tried to take a 4th. Which is crazy, because if you're on his side of the map, that is the, you know, you are so easily able to take a 4th at that point. Right? Yeah, totally. Totally, man, totally. 3-3 is finished. You're kind of in a good spot, except that he's got $1 million in the bank. He's still continuing to mine way more than you, and he's on tier 3, and you're still making infantry, so you're in a terrible spot. But, you know, like, you've limited his income well. You just never got your own income. Because, like, theoretically, from 12 minutes on, all game long, you should have a 3k income. And so you're in a good offensive spot in that he has less than a 3K income. So if you had a 3K income, you'd be ahead. But you don't, so you're behind. I don't know if that was even worth saying, but that's what I meant. Broods and infestors are out, so the game's kind of over. So, again, infantry is all about winning during that time period between when you finish 2-2 and when he gets his first broodlord out. So, once broodlords are out, you kind of lose. Even if you win the game, it's a failure. So, in all three of those games, in all two of those games where you tried the CC first build, you basically just didn't do it right. I mean, you knew why you lost before you even sent me the replay. So thank you for sending me the replay. It is important that I look at your losses, but it's pretty obvious what happened there. You didn't make enough racks, you didn't spend your money, so you couldn't win. And not taking a fourth is important, but it's way less important than spending the money you have before then, right? Because the game is going to end on 3 bases. You should make a fourth, and you should start mining from it, but the game should be over before that happens. So it's not really that important. This is the TVP. Again, we're looking to hit benchmarks. If you don't hit benchmarks, that's why you lost. So I think from your email you just said that you didn't hit the benchmark, so obviously we don't need to look any further than that as to why you lost, so we'll just watch this really quickly. And that's just all about practice, man. Also, don't build the rack so that you need to float it to get the reactor core. That's kind of silly. So coming up here, we're looking for saved chrono boost and a nexus. So we see 2 zealots out. 2 zealots actually mean something. And double gas. 2 zealots and double gas. It means that he's not spending his gas. So he might be fast teching to DTs or proxy void ray or something. We also do not see saved chrono boost, so I would guess DTs at this point. Right? Because he made 2 zealots, which is crazy. He's still only on 1 gateway, and he's got double gas. So, it looks like it is DTs. So, the trick about chrono boost, right? If he wants to do a void ray all in, he's going to save chrono boost to chrono out that void ray. If he wants to do an immortal all in, he's going to save chrono boost to chrono out that immortal. If he wants to do a gateway all in, he's going to save chrono boost and chrono boost gateway tech. Right? If he's going for fast DTs, he doesn't need saved chrono boost. He's not going to save it up. So if you see a guy who's not taking a nexus and is got double gas and is not saving chrono, it almost always means DTs. And yes, it is DTs. Nice, you killed the DT thingy. Forced him to full workers. Did a bunch of damage. So this is actually great. This is exactly what you should be doing, and you did it well. But you just see $1,000 in the bank and a pylon in your base, and neither of those things should happen. So in TVP, you do not want to wall in Heart of the Swarm, just because they have that stupid early floating flying thing that will allow them to pick it off. But in Wings of Liberty, you always 100% of the time want to wall in. You never want him to be able to get a pylon in your main or anything into your main. And if he goes for proxy double gate and you don't wall in, you lose. So basically, you should just always wall in just in case a proxy double gate comes. Also, in this position, it's so easy to wall in. You got a Rax, a reactor core, and a supply depot, and it's like, bam, you're done. But really, you stop mining, and you stop spending your money, so it's just kind of obvious what happened here. So, great job with the harassment, but harassment should never take priority over spending. You really need to have the huge army at 10 minutes. At 10 minutes, your spending should be 3,500, and I suspect that it's far lower. It looks like 2,300, so you know why you lost. You know what you did. You know what you did. It's good that all of your losses are so blatantly obvious, too, because these are the types of things that you're just going to fix with practice. You know, like, if it's so obvious why you lost and you're going to work on it next time, that's a good loss, man. That's a good loss. Never another TVP. Never perver. A never perver. So again, first Marine to go scout. Again, you built your racks in a place where you're gonna have to float it in order to get the the reactor core. It's kind of silly. and then you're not going to wall in. Okay, you're going to wall in with depot, so that's good. We're looking for 6 minutes, 1.5, no, 1050, whatever.
Add-on upgrade complete.
So funny, you can just lower your depots. What is he trying to do with that? Why did you scout there? Is this a 4-player map? What a weird guy.
Research complete.
Yeah, I don't know, but I think that everything is cross positions these days. I don't know, I might be wrong. Saved chrono, 1 gateway and a nexus. Either, I mean, for his chrono to be saved literally 100% up, he might just be bad. You can't really read too much into that. Plus, it's too late. I mean, if he were chronoing Workgate, he would have been doing it by now. The fact that he's not chrono boosting anything just means he's bad. So you can't read anything into that. But you did see only one gas geyser, and you did see a nexus. Your 6-minute poke should theoretically do quite good against this early nexus. But your army is so small. You got an 800 minutes, 800 bucks at 6 minutes. You've already built your factory and second gas geyser, which is silly. You got mule you didn't drop. You've got 23 workers instead of 24, and you're not building a worker. So there's a lot of problems here, man. And you know the benchmarks, and I've seen you hit them before. So just don't make these mistakes, and you'll be fine. If you do fail to hit the benchmarks, just don't make the push. Like, you shouldn't be pushing with this inferior force. Oh. Anyway, you're going to get a lot done with this because he's terrible. But as soon as that immortal comes out, by the way, here are the rules on when to retreat. If you see an immortal, immediately retreat. If you see more than 5 units at 6 minutes when you show up, immediately retreat, because it means that he's doing something crazy. If you don't see a nexus, you want to scout to see if he's fast teching, and then immediately retreat if he's not. Yeah, that's about it. But basically, you're always looking for an excuse to run away. This is early poke. It's not. You don't need to kill the nexus with it. It's just there to maybe kill the nexus, and a lot of the times you can. So you're just taking, basically, you're taking advantage of the fact that a lot of Protoss are gonna let you kill that nexus because their build is not meant to defend against this early poke. But it doesn't need to kill the nexus. If his nexus gets up and he mines from it the whole time, you'll still win with the 10-minute push if it has a big enough army. So really, the most important thing about this build is to have a $3,500 army at 10 minutes. You didn't, so nothing else that matters in this game matters. Nothing else that happens in this game matters. So, yeah, learn to poke while still spending your money back home and still hitting that second benchmark. If you can't hit the benchmark, then you might consider immediately going home with your poke. Nick was doing that for a long time. Poking would tend to delay his 10-minute push. It would tend to screw up his push like it just did to you. And so what he would do is just go to your opponent's base, check what's there, shoot 2 or 3 times at the nexus, and then just immediately go home, because it's more important to hit the 10-minute timing than it is to kill the nexus or to do anything at that point. So don't feel ashamed if you can't macro behind your poke. Just don't poke. It's more important to macro than it is to actually poke. Looks like this is one more. So I usually actually have a rule when I coach people, but it usually doesn't kick in until after like 10 or 15 replays. At first, I want to see everything you do, and I especially want to see every game you lose, because I want to get an idea for what you're bad at and what you're losing with and what you need to improve upon. But once we've kind of gotten a feel for what's going on, I only want to see games where you hit the benchmarks and you lost. Because if you, like, in all of these games so far, you didn't hit the benchmark, and that's why you lost, and you know it. So you need to hit that benchmark. And I feel like if you want to improve as a player and you're trying to execute certain builds properly, you should be leaving games. You should be, intentionally not counting games where you can't hit the benchmark. So if you're playing a TVP and you have a $2,000 like 80 supply army at 10 minutes, no matter what the reason for that is, this game is no longer valid. You could leave then, not even try to win it, I'm not saying you necessarily have to do that, but if you play enough games, you're gonna get to the same place no matter what. So while you're learning, while you're trying to perfect a build, it doesn't matter if you artificially gain some losses or whatever. You're just going to make up for it with easy wins later on. So basically what I want to see from you is replays where you lose, but you do hit the benchmark, so that we can talk about other things besides, you didn't hit this benchmark. Anyway, it's up to you. Send me whatever replays you want. But if you don't hit a benchmark, that's why you lost, and that's all I'm going to say. Supply block right here for a little bit. This is a TVZ. You went for the CC first build again. Again, I don't like this build at all, so you're going to lose a lot of games doing it. Basically, the goal of this build, 52 workers at 10 minutes, and the Zerg has to have less than 60 workers at 10 minutes, or you shouldn't win the game. Because his goal is 72, your goal is 52, and if he has 72 and you have 52, you should theoretically lose. So this is good. You have 52 and he has 56. So this is actually a good game. This is one I would want to see. You're adding new racks a little bit early, I feel. You're making... maybe not. And what's with... Every time you've been going for the reactor cord factory. I want a tech lab factory. So, okay, here's what I want. You should have 3 racks very early, maybe 4. 3 or 4 racks very early. And then your first factory, maybe a reactor core swaps with the starport. But you shouldn't have time to make Hellions while you, like, if you start the starport and the reactor core at the same time, they both take 1 minute. So the reactor core should be building while the starport is building. See, this too, like, you're floating it down here and making its own reactor core. It could be making 2 medevacs right now. You've got a gas problem. I don't know.
Upgrade.
You're gonna start massing 2 factory blue flame Hellions before you know what your opponent is doing. That's not a good idea. What if he's going pure roach and you have 15 or 20 Hellions before you even know? That's gonna be bad. Yeah. Anyway, you have a replay from me where I do what I want you to do, so just do whatever it is that I did in that replay. But general idea, 1 tech lab racks, tons of reactor core racks. Reactor core the factory at the same time as you start the starport, then swap the starport onto that reactor core, then start a tech lab on your factory, then get blue flame right away. If you've seen that he has ling speed. But you should have checked at that point whether or not he has ling speed just by sending 1 or 2 Marines out to take the watchtower. If you take the watchtower, he's going to take it back and you're going to see if he has ling speed. If he does, start blue flame, maybe add a second factory with a reactor core to get more Hellions or whatever. But the Hellions are not important. Your first push should probably have between 3 and 5 Hellions in it. It's really not important. This, you broke your double wall in and never repaired it. That's really bad. You just saw, you can see Banelings morphing for him to all-in you right here. Whenever your army is standing still, it needs to be pre-spread. And yes, your Hellions should definitely be out on the field trying to kick some butt as well. Don't stop microing them. So the big problem here is that your army is just kind of standing in a clump, so the Banelings get a lot more damage done than they really needed to. And use those Hellions non-stop. Once you make Hellions, they should be out there finding out if a Baneling all-in is coming. But it's more important to macro than it is to use the Hellions, so I kind of approve of you not using them at all if that's the only way that you can get your macro up properly. Anyway, around 12 minutes, you want to go from 3 racks into 8. It looks like, again, you went to 6 racks at 10 minutes, which is too early to have more than 3 racks and not enough racks. So we get here to 15 minutes. You want to have spent 7,000 bucks on your army, and you've spent 6K plus some, some upgrades. So it seems like you're doing okay. You got a bunch of money in the bank, but not too much. Definitely 2 more racks. Either get a reactor on this racks and add another one, or make 2 more reactored racks. Anyway, point is 14 Marines and 1 Marauder at a time. That's what you want. Things are going okay. Your CC is really, really late. It's so late. It's 16 minutes and you haven't attacked him yet. This is really bad. So, like I've said every single time, you have a timing window with this build. You have to kill him right when 2-2 finishes before he gets his hive. And you're not. You have no plans to push out. It's very scary for me.
Mineral field depleted.
Your units are clumping up a lot. These fungals become very effective when your units are clumped up. Burrowed and retreated. Festers are so obnoxious in this way. Like, you catch them all alone, off creep, and you only get to kill 4 of them. So annoying. Money is climbing really high. During these pushes, you've got 15 Marines at a time coming out, which is good, but now you've got none. Now you've only got 6 dudes building. Now you've got enough dudes building for a second, but now you don't. Now you do.
Mineral field depleted.
Also, you're not rallying to the front, you're rallying to your third. Also, you've got terrible income at this point. So yeah, this is, again, this is just, I mean, you haven't sent me wins where you did this correctly, but so far of all the games I've seen, you just have never done the build correctly, so it's not really surprising that it isn't working. You took down the Greater Spire, you're going to take down, I would have focused one building and taken down one building. His money is piling up, you've larva blocked him, and you're not pressing that advantage. I said before, the way you win with Marines, you lose the first fight, you win the second fight, and then you keep fighting constantly, and it causes him to misinject and larva block. So he larva blocked, and you didn't take advantage. Like right now, he's got 7k in the bank and almost no larva, and he's not injecting his hatcheries. If you were here with your whole army, he would be dead right now, because he doesn't have the larva to survive. But you're rallying your army right here and sending it in small groups to do stupid things. Rally your army as close as you can to his base while not sending it to its death. So right now I would have this as your rally point. When this hatchery fell, I might have changed my rally point to be right here. Point is, it should be within about a 10-second walk of his natural. It should be really close to him. So you right now, your army is so big and his army is so small and he has no larvae. You should theoretically have won this game at this point, but again, you're just losing it because you're being way too passive. You have this little tiny timing window between 14 minutes and whenever he gets hive to win with, and you're not acting like you got a gun to your head. You're not acting like there's a ticking time bomb about to explode in your pants. You're acting like you've got all day and like this is I'm just gonna out macro. And that's not how TVZ works. You can't win a late game TVZ using infantry. It is physically impossible. It's never ever gonna happen to anybody. So you have to win within a certain period of time, or else you auto lose, and there's nothing you can do about it. So in this case, you should have definitely won that game. It was all about not attacking often enough. During each of the fights, you weren't producing enough army back home. You didn't make enough racks at 12 minutes. You should be watching that timer throughout the game to get an idea of when things need to happen. At 10 minutes, you need to make those turrets, or else you might lose to mutas. At 12 minutes, you need to make those racks, or else you might end up without having enough army at 15 minutes. So in that game, you were a little bit off benchmark at 15 minutes because you didn't make those racks at 12 minutes, and that's a big deal. But you still should have won because you had a huge army. He had no army. You larva blocked him. You kicked his butt, and then you just sat around with your army waiting for him to build his own army, which doesn't make any sense. So that was really bad. You did a lot of things right, but I won't talk about those because you'll do those right again next time, whether I mention them or not. And you did just a couple things wrong. Just 2 things wrong, I would say. Passivity and no racks at 12. Those are the only 2 mistakes you made. And if you fix those 2, you would have won that game easily. Just so easily. Alright, we're going to look at benchmarks again in this TVP because if you don't hit the benchmarks, I don't care what else happened. So 6 minutes, we want 1050 with concussive shells. Done. Or, you know, finishing.
Upgrade complete.
First Marine Scouts, he sees some saved chrono boost, only 1 gas geyser. This looks like an expand to me. It looks like he's going to be throwing down his Nexus in a second. You kill the probe. That's pretty cool. He's definitely throwing down this Nexus. And the reason that I said that, 1 gateway, right? No chrono boost being used on this cybernetics core. A little bit of saved chrono, no second gas, and way too many probes. right? If he was gonna 4-gate all in you off one gas, he wouldn't make this many probes. It just, you know, it looked like a Nexus to me. And there's nothing scary that it could be. Even if he wasn't planning to throw down a Nexus, worst case he throws down 3 more gateways, and he has a late and wussy 4-gate coming. And, you know, if a 4-gate doesn't hit at exactly 6 minutes with exactly 7 units, it is not scary at all, because you'll have a big enough army to deal with it by then. So you only need to be worried about those extreme 4-gates. A normal 4-gate is just not very scary. So at 6 minutes, we want to be pushing across the field with 2 Marauders and 6 Marines and a bunch more stuff in the bank. We actually hit the benchmark for the first time. Yay! And you're starting combat shields. This is okay. I'm not a fan, but it's okay. This second gas geyser looks like it was too early, which means you're probably going to miss this double Marine queue. Yeah, you don't have the money to queue up those Marines right away. Because a 2-gate with 1 gas geyser spends every penny. You know, there's no extra room to be buying something that you don't normally buy. So if you buy anything else, you're going to miss a fraction of a Marine or whatever. And it doesn't matter too much, but, you know, the build is perfect. Do it the perfect way. Anyway, he fought you off with probes, which is theoretically good, but in reality it's bad. What happens is probes are extremely good against Marauders. Probes are pretty good against Marines. And it's easy to kite probes. I mean, they're faster than you and they will get us around and you will die. But if you see them 5 or 6 range out and you just start running away, he's not going to want to keep chasing you forever because he's not mining during that entire time. So again, whenever you do this poke, you're looking for an excuse to run away. You never want to be really fighting to the death with this poke. This poke is all about running away. Because if he... Okay, you counted the units. Less than 5 means fight, right? Nexus also means fight. Now you see him pull probes, immediately just start running away. And don't try to kite, don't run away and shoot and run away and shoot. Just run straight away, just completely run away. And even if he kills every unit you have, he's not going to be mining during that time. Right? Don't shoot at probes with Marauders. Big waste. Even if you kill probes with those Marauders, you're not going to kill very many, and the Marauders are going to die. And the Marauders cost 2.5 probes. So it's just silly. Also, they do so much damage to this Stalker, and they have concussive shells, so the Stalker can't retreat, that there's no reason not to be shooting at the Stalker if you have to be shooting at something. But it's way better to just run away. Immediately run away. So in the heart of the storm, we have that resume from replay thing. So if we resumed from replay right here, and we say, okay, this should be 2 Marauders and 6 Marines. These 2 Marines are a little bit far back. So as soon as you see him, you want to start kiting this Zealot back. So the very first shot you fire, take a step back, take another shot. Now you see he's pulled probes. You start running way away because you want to join up with these 2 Marines. Right? It's really hard with workers to get us around unless your opponent stands still. So because you're standing still, he easily gets us around. And even then, he didn't get a full surround on these 2 units. They can still get away. So this whole surround with probes thing only works if you let him do it. You shouldn't be fighting the way that you did. You want to go on the unit test map and actually practice this sort of thing with somebody else. And you can't practice it by yourself because somebody needs to be trying to get the surround with the probes or whatever. But you win if you delay his mining for like 2 minutes or something. I don't know. If you delay, like, the delayed mining cost of having all those probes in the fight counts. I don't know exactly how much it counts, but it should be pretty obvious just playing against that kind of thing. Anyway, to be $800 behind after the first battle is a big deal. So you really want to be running away when someone pulls probes. I don't know what else to say about that. Recent. No, I don't even want to be in the replays menu. Dun 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 dun. Recently played. Unit tester online. 0.9.6. Tom is on. Tommy's on. Alright, so you give yourself 2 Marauders, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Marines, and 16 probes, and a Zealot, and a Stalker, and a Sentry. And then we give ourselves more room to run. And a field of glory. Alright, so 2 of those Marines have to stay back. These guys go over here, and then we fight, and then these guys come over here. So if you do what you did, which is just fight and let the Marauders shoot at the probes, that's the first scenario, right? Blue 1 with 875 left over, alright? Now we do the exact same thing. And there's no micro that the Protoss can do. It's impossible for him to actually micro here, except for getting surrounds with the probes. And like I said, that only works if you kind of screw up. So you're over here, you see probes, and you run away, and you go, ah! And you just keep running. And the probes, they're a little bit faster than you, but they're not actually fast enough to get us around. So you see, like, you can just keep going. He's got 1 stalker shooting at you. You're going to lose, like, a Marine crossing all the way back to your main. Anyway, this does slightly more damage for the Terran. In reality, though, you're just going to keep retreating. You should be able to get all the way away. And if you can't, you'll still do better off joining up with your reinforcements, because he's not going to be joining up with his reinforcements. As long as the whole battle, both armies are running towards your base, your reinforcements are going to be a factor while his aren't, because even if his reinforcements are running towards the battle is running away from the reinforcements, right? Anyway, don't get surrounded by probes is the general point. And you can get really good practice of fighting against probes by doing the 3 racks, the no gas 3 racks thing, right? Let me look that up. 12-12 no gas 3 racks Halby StarCraft. Where is it? Here you go, 12-12 5-minute all in. So this, in the Masters League, in the Grandmasters League, this build actually works. You'll see it happen occasionally on people's streams in the Grandmasters League. It's really easy to do. You should totally try it. But try not to screw up your MMR. You know, every time you win a game doing this, try to keep your win-loss ratio about 50%. So if you win 15 games doing this, then leave 15 games afterwards. Because what you don't want to do is end up fighting people that are way better than you, just because you used a stupid all-in tactic. But I do recommend you give this a shot, just to get an idea of how to use workers and Marines against workers and stalkers, because that's what you really had trouble with there, is that workers are actually a lot better than you think when they get to hit things. But yeah, anyway, it's just a way to get some practice with that.